Welcome back to Off Guard. I'm your host, Austin Rivers, along with my co-host, Pausha Hagigi. We are back. End of the week. Another episode. Hope everybody is all well during these holidays. We're Off Guard.
On the Knicks side of things, I want to know what's going on because they have the long, athletic defender 3-and-D guys with Mikal Bridges and OG. And it seemed like the Hawks, those guys, they had like a younger version of it, right?
Yeah.
With their Jalen Johnsons and Risa Shea and Dyson Daniels. So you would think the Knicks have the better long, rangy 3-and-D guys. So I don't know why that would be a bad matchup for them.
I don't know what that is. Atlanta has, that team has something with the Knicks. Trade, more specifically has something with the Knicks. Obviously, we all know that. They get up for them, especially in the Garden. They come to play, so much so, in fact, if they played a series, I'm convinced they would go 7 games. They're not a better team. The Knicks are a better team. They have more proven guys. I think they have a better full roster. With that being said, the Knicks do have some glaring issues. Let's just call it what it is.
Depth.
Their bench is horrendous.
Right.
They don't have a bench. They don't have one. I don't know, and I'm not being disrespectful, but they don't really have they don't have one good player off the bench. They have like decent, solid. They don't have one good. They don't have a Hunter coming off the bench. They don't have Bogdanovich coming off the bench. So you can say whatever you want about the Hawks' roster. They got more deep players in some regard as the Knicks. The problem, the Knicks' top is heavy.
Yeah.
You got Karl Anthony Towns, you got Jalen Brunson, you got Mikal Bridges, you got OG. It's a heavy top. Josh Hart, big name, right? You got heavy names at the top. After that, it gets really tricky.
Right.
Their bench needs work. Bro, they panned to the bench last night at one point. I'm like, who the hell are they going to get off of that? You know what I mean? And good guys on their team. I know just about all of them. Solid players. I got respect for all of them, so I'm not being disrespectful here. But I'm talking about in comparison to when they play like a Boston or some of these other teams who are so loaded, where you got Al Horfords and Pritchards and Hauser.
Yeah, Sam
Hauser. All these guys coming off the bench who can produce at a high level. Not to mention, Celtics' first 5 is so loaded that you could take 1 or 2 out early and bring them back in with those other 2 guys. It's always Jaylen Brown or one of those guys in there. They're just loaded.
Yeah.
The Knicks got like 4 or 5, and then it's done. It's tricky out there. So, that's why losing DiVincenzo was a loss. Even though he's not performing really too high at Minnesota, he was very comfortable in New York. And what it would allow them to do when they got Mikal is move DiVincenzo to the bench, or Josh Hart, probably more DiVincenzo because he's more scoring, to the bench. So you have that coming in.
Yeah.
That's what's so ironic about DiVincenzo's comments when he said that to the Knicks. Remember, he's shooting the free throw? He's like, well, now they're running it through me. They're not. They're trying to trade you as of right now. What is the ironic thing is, and it's not like it was his control. He got traded. But if he would have stayed, or if they wouldn't have traded him, that second unit would have been all his, because they don't have one.
Yeah.
I saw campaign at the end of the game last night. I'm going to leave that there. They need more.
Right.
So I would not be surprised if the Knicks try to get aggressive here at the trade deadline at some point later this season, and they start trying to make moves, because this team, for me, as the more I watch them, I don't know how far they can go in the playoffs. Jalen Brunson would have to be of last year, which we have not seen.
Well, yeah, he's had a good year, but last night obviously wasn't his best game.
He's had a good year, I guess you know what the problem is? He was so brilliant in the playoffs that we compared to that, which isn't fair.
Yeah.
But
and also with a guy like Karl Anthony Towns who's playing, he's having a career year. You're talking about a future Hall of Fame player.
Karl's their best player.
Yeah.
Karl's their best player. And people might get thrown off by that, but Karl Anthony Towns is their best player. He's been better than Jalen just about every year of his career, except last year.
Yeah.
1 year. Other year, Karl's been the best player. And as of this year so far, Karl's been their best player. How far you can go with that, I don't know. Also, bro, listen, man. They need help off the bench. It just has to happen. I'm not saying they need 4 guys. You just need one.
Well, this team got Bojan Bogdanovic and OG last year, right before the trade deadline. So they've proven to be active and make moves.
That's all they need is something like that.
Yeah.
Like you get a Burks back. Just some guy that you can come in and be like, yo, can you give us 9 a game? I don't need 15 a game. We don't need 6 men of the year. We don't need Hunter. Okay? Because our first 5 is just about better than everyone else's.
And Thibodeau's going to play those guys heavy minutes.
Yeah, they're playing 35 minutes anyway.
Right.
So you already know Tibbs is going to play them a lot of minutes. You already know you got a very heavy starting lineup that you can take 1 or 2 out and come back in the second unit. So you only need a guy or 2. But it's got to be someone who knows how to hoop and play in big time games. It can't be what I'm looking at. Their bench right now is. I'm trying to be as respectful as possible. It needs work. They need a couple proven vets who can come in, hit shots, make some plays. Doesn't mean you have to score. Someone who can put the ball on the floor and make some fucking plays, bro. It cannot just be name their playmakers right now.
No, it's
one guy.
Yeah, it is.
They have one playmaker. They have one. The Celtics have like 6. Derek White's a playmaker. Drew Holiday's a playmaker. Jason Tatum's a playmaker. Peyton Pritchard's a playmaker. Jaylen Brown's a playmaker. They got 5. 5 guys who can come off a pick and roll, split, read the pick, hit backside, drive, kick. They have 5 guys.
And that was my point last night with the Hawks. Other guys were making plays and being able to do different things.
Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson. They had even Bogdanovich can put it on the floor a little bit. Hunter, they have multiple guys who can make plays. Josh Hart is a catch and shoot or a slash guy. He's not a playmaker. Mikal Bridges, I thought had that capability. I think he does. He needs to play make a little bit more. He's always coming off the screen, whether he's shooting and he's off it to Brunson. They got one playmaker right now, bro. Jalen Brunson. They got one playmaker.
Yeah.
And I'll give Campaign some credit because he does come in the game and try to play make. So you could throw Campaign in there as well. They need more though. You know what I'm saying? It can't just be Jalen Brunson and Campaign playmaking.
Right.
They need another guard. It doesn't have to be a point guard. It's like a shooting. Somebody who can come down when they get a rebound and Jalen doesn't have to. Jalen, why don't you run to the corner? Goddamn. Why don't you go space up for once?
Right. This is not sustainable.
Get off the ball.
That's the issue. Does the game look a little different last night if Mitchell Robinson's playing because of all the open looks that the Hawks got at the basket?
Yeah. But that is something you cannot put. Come on, man. It's every year. Yeah. Okay. So I wish him nothing but the best. He's actually a really nice guy, by the way. Talented shot blocker. For sure would have an impact if he's playing because he can challenge shots at the rim. Even if he's not blocking him, he'll alter him. So definitely could have an impact, but he's hurt a lot, unfortunately. So I don't know if that's something you can put your faith on or count on. So with that being said, you kind of have to work with what you got. Karl-Anthony Towns is a magnificent player. He's not a rim protector. There's a cause for concern there. Yeah. You have no one they're just catching lobs all night, just dunking all over the place. Did you see that shit last night? It's fucking slam ball. The last 3 minutes is just dunk, dunk, dunk. I was like, this is crazy. They don't have rim protection. It's an issue. Along with playmaking. That's why Dallas went and got Kyrie. They're like, yo, we love Luka with the ball. It's too much. Right. You got to have.
We talked about this with James Harden and Chris Paul. And everyone
you got to
like
grab
guy.
It can't just be him, bro. You got to bring someone else. You got to. It's too much. It's too much. He has too much responsibility. The only star that's never needed that is and he's the only one in the NBA. And that's because he plays without the ball is Steph. You never needed 4 playmakers with Steph because Steph don't dribble the ball that much anyway.
It's tricky when you even call Steph a point guard. It's really because everyone's like, oh, him and Magic Johnson, 2 best point guards of all time.
Yeah, Magic's way more of a point guard than him. Steph is a catch and shoot
he
point.
He kind of gets off the ball.
He's like a hybrid.
Amazing at whatever he is, but I don't even.
It's hybrid.
Yeah,
he's one of those hybrid. Yeah. He's one of those hybrid. It's like calling Shea a point guard. Is he? He's like 6'6", shooting guard. They paired him with Giddey and other guys who bring him the ball half the time, but he's a point guard.
Right.
Luka, Kyrie are both point guards, but they play in the same team. One has to be a shooting guard, technically, but they're both point guards, right? So I don't know what it is these days. Half these guys are hybrids. Nonetheless, he's registered as a point guard, and it works because he don't need the ball in his hands. He don't dribble. So that's a guy who you don't need 5 playmakers around because the ball's popping anyway. Every other team that has a prototypical point guard, you need somebody else to get the ball at their hands. It cannot just be Luka coming down every single time. We've seen that. It got too heavy for him. You bring in Kyrie, they go to the finals.
Right.
So Brunson needs somebody paired with him that I believe can put the ball on the floor and make plays. And then they need rim protection if Mitchell Robinson's not available. That's what they need. They need somebody, whether you start them, come off the bench. I don't know. They need another guard. They need one other guy just to help play make. That's it. Shot blocking, shot rim protection. That's something they need too. But I would, if I had to put a preference on one thing, they need another playmaker. Jalen Brunson can't do it. You expect him to do what he did last year in the playoffs again? He can't do it. He won't need to because you have Carl, which will help. But playmaking is a whole different thing. And you need that. Otherwise, every single time the ball goes through the net from the other team, that ball gets inbounded, he gets it and turns, and Dyson Daniels right there guarding him. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. They're gonna work him. Not to mention the minutes he's playing gonna be heavy.
Yeah.
Tim's playing him 40 minutes, he's gonna run you in the ground.
And these teams could play each other in the playoffs first round too. Like this, or any team that plays, any top 3 seed that plays the Hawks in the first round.
I believe the Knicks would win.
Tricky.
I believe the Knicks would win in a series because they're like I said, their top is just heavier. they need work if they're going to consider beating those boys.
Like, yeah, you might get by them, but then they run into
You're going to run into Boston.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen again. You need more. You need more play. Hell, I'm not even the biggest Pacers teams fan. One thing I can tell you, though, is if they do get in the playoffs, you got 3-4 guys who could dribble the ball and make a play.
Yeah.
McConnell can go play make for you. We've seen it. Nembhard is a starting point guard on a lot of teams, probably. A lot of teams would probably give him the keys as a young guard to be a starting point guard and try him out. He could play make. And then you obviously got Halliburton, who we all know that's what he does for a living. We all know that dude can run a team and get rebounds and set a tempo and play make. We can never question that from Halliburton. They got 3 guys that can do it. Pascal can even play make. Like, he'd be dribbling because he's not a shooter. He'd be dribbling, driving, and kicking all the time. Like, you just need multiple guys. Mikal Bridges got to do it. I mean,
if you look at other teams in the East, Paolo led the Magic in assists last year. Now the way Franz can play make when Paolo was out, now Jalen Suggs turns in. So now when they're all together, they're gonna have 3 guys that can do it.
That's what makes it hard. When it's one thing to swing. It's a whole nother thing to swing, drive, kick, swing, drive. When you have multiple guys who can penetrate the defense and they're kicking, you're like, bro, all these guys can beat somebody off the dribble. It's very hard to guard. It's very hard to guard. That's what made that in my opinion, that's what made that Warriors team so good when they were in their prime. Is you had like Iguodala out there, even though he was not the Iguodala in Philly, he didn't need to be. He was driving and kicking and moving. Livingston driving and kicking, and Barbosa driving and kicking. But they just had dudes who could ball, who could get the ball on the floor, not to score, but just trying to fuck up the defense, trying to mess up the defense. And that shit is hard to guard, man. Like, the Knicks can't just be one guy dribbling and then you got a bunch of shooters and scorers. It ain't going to work like that. You need another playmaker. They need one drastically. It was very glaring last night. I'm not overreacting. This is the thing we've been seeing this, but it was something that showed last night where I was able to watch that game and be like, in the playoffs, this could be problematic for them. They're going to run into a similar issue. They're going to jam up Karl. They're going to be physical with him. You know how Karl gets. He starts not getting the fouls and gets a little weird out there. And they're going to put like 2 or 3 dudes. They're just going to keep rotating them on Jalen Brunson. They're going to wear him down. And it's going to fall on Josh Hart again and Bridges again. They're going to they're going to be like, what's going on? Because they haven't done it all year. They're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
They need a playmaker. That's my opinion, at least.